And it's uploading. Here we are. Hello, welcome everyone. This is Julia Seibold, and you're tuning in to another episode of Mind of the Week. Woo! And see who we got here today. It's JG. Yes, it's so exciting. Hi, JG. Good to have you here.
It's so awesome to be here. I don't even know how I got here. I just turned on my computer and you were there. So I'm like, all right, well, I guess we'll have a conversation then.
Oh, fabulous. Well, thank you. I'm really grateful for having you here. And the excitement is great, not only with me, but with other people too, who I shared this with, that I'm having you on my show, which is so cool. And so I can already see that people are joining us. It's Frauke and Sinje from our latest course. So let me introduce you, first of all. Let me introduce you, because you are astonishing. You are an astonishing guy. Not only are you the first guy who made it into my series of Mind of the Week. Before, I only had female guests, and so here you are. You are groundbreaking.
That's awesome. I'm so excited.
So what I do is I interview people who I adore, whose stories are worth telling, and who inspired me in some way, and who, when that happens, I believe it's not only me. There is more people who can get that same feeling from someone. And so I want to be a platform to bring stories and people out there. And you are obviously out there a lot. You are an international speaker. You have spoken on the TEDx platform. You have a best-selling book called Prison Break. And is that actually the book behind you?
Oh, it is the book behind me. It's always weird because the camera's flipped. I think I'm pointing this way, but it's one of those.
Well, I don't know. And so that book is amazing. I can see it there, and it is promising just by the undertitle as well. It has obviously to do with your belief systems and your inner prison, not that other prison. But so it's exciting. Maybe you want to share about that later as well. And you're talking a lot about self-leadership. And, I want to just address this from the beginning. I met you through an online course we just did, and you have such a unique way of teaching. And that is inspiring in itself. So when I met you through that, and it's funny, isn't it? Because I saw you daily and you had no idea who we are, like all these participants, and it becomes like a friendship.
I know who you guys are. I was creeping in the group, checking you guys out. I was stalking you guys a little bit. I knew what was going on.
So it's a little bit like a one-sided friendship building up, and you are with us.
Most of my friendships feel like one-sided friendships, so it's totally fine. It's okay.
So anyway, so that you're building up relationships from the way you are. And this is just such a treasure. So I want to just show you to people and to the listener, to the audience today. And we are focusing on the topic of how playfulness is a supreme life hack. Now, the way this is going to work best in any case is that we are having this dialogue. I will glance and spot comments on the side. And whenever there is something super interesting and highly informative or very important to get through to you, I will message you that as well.
No pressure, guys. No pressure that you have to be extremely informative or really interesting. No pressure at all.
There is no pressure. There is no pressure, just engagement, right?
Yeah.
And I'm liking the comments already, so we have many people joining. And it's just fascinating, this topic. And let me just tell you, the way you come across, you just live it. And so that's why I got so inspired by talking to you, and thank you for allowing me to interview you. So
yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for asking.
So playfulness, right?
Yep.
Let me tell you what I first sensed in the word playfulness, and then I would be interested to hear from you more about the whole topic. So playfulness to me has to do, first of all, with being childish and being a child, or having childlike attitudes. And so I have two children. They're now 18 and 15. And whenever they want to be playful, I'm like, yes, again, they want to be playful. That's good. They're not just all cool. Yeah. And so playing has always been fascinating to me, because when my kids grew up, I very much came from the sense playing is important, in play, there is nothing wrong, because in play, we always do something useful. Mm-hmm. And children learn through play, and they allow themselves to make mistakes, and then they just play it differently. And so whenever I saw my children play, I was like, gosh, what are they playing now? What's that? But there was sense behind it and uniqueness, and it got them forward. It got them moving onto something else. So I'm intrigued of how you came about all this playfulness, and if anything of what I just said plays a role in that as well.
Yeah, no, I think what you said there is a brilliant definition of playfulness, right? Having this like a childlike wonder, right? And just kind of looking at the world through the eyes of a child. So instead of like living every day like it's your last, living every day like it's your first instead, right? Like just seeing everything new for the first time. And that was kind of what my TEDx talk was about. The title was How to Manufacture Fascination. And this is not about having fake fascination, but it's how to actually figure out how to purposefully and intentionally uncover fascination, to uncover miracles in the mundane, as I say in the talk. And I think for me, the really cool thing about what children do when it comes to playfulness and imagination is that the world of form, the world out here, the world that we can like touch and like, you know, stuff we can grab, the world of form is like a suggestion for kids, right? It's not a barrier, it's a suggestion. So to adults, this is a bottle of water. To a kid, this is like a bazooka, and it's, you know, it's a guitar, and it's like, so that like the world of form just doesn't have any barriers anymore. It's a suggestion. So I go, hey kid, here's a water bottle. And they say, I see that could also be a water bottle, but I also see it could be a guitar, and I also see it could be a bazooka. So the great thing about that is understanding that the more playful we are in that sense, the more creative and imaginative we can be, the less the constraints of the world of form feel like they apply to us. And so where that comes into my work and what I hopefully am helping other people do and activating with other people is for them to use that same perspective of the world of form being something that is malleable, that it's a suggestion, not a barrier, not a boundary, to the way our mind works, right? And so it's understanding that just like the world of form is just a starting point, the thoughts in our head, good, bad, or indifferent, are just a starting point. They're not fact. They're not infallible, and they're completely malleable. And so that's kind of where playfulness works for me. Is it's much more like, how do I play with what's going on between my ears? And a lot of times what that does is that allows me to then play with things in the outer world. And I like to do both. I like to have the playfulness and the creativity in the outer world, but that to me really starts with the playfulness and the creativity in the inner world.
Yeah. And you mentioned creativity in there. So I guess there is an element of, there are side effects to that playfulness. Like it's not just one stream, I'm playful. It opens up many areas of how we perceive the world and how we are then, and all of a sudden when we have this playful, is it an attitude then, would you say? Because attitude is like a overarching thing, isn't it? So in my world, I describe, in my coaching world, I describe attitudes as, it's kind of the song you play in your life. You know, it's like kind of, it's that theme tune. It's that song which you play in the car. It's like that keeps you going. So if playfulness would be an attitude, and that would be your song you sing or you hear going, the vibe you are living your life with, then what is that opening up yourself for? So it's creativity as well. What you say is like, what's on the outskirts of that playfulness? What have you seen in your work? Because you are a tremendously great coach and you coach people to be more playful. So what do you see people experience when they are playful?
Yeah, I mean everything, right? It's like it's all of the high levels of consciousness type emotions. So, you know, creativity, innovation, productivity, performance, peace, like any of the things that people would typically label as like good feelings are things that I think come as a result of playfulness, because there is the challenge here is that for the most part, as adults, this is something that we learn as adults. We didn't have this as kids, but as adults, our creative minds have been kind of re-engineered and remixed and reimagined to take care of all the serious stuff that we have to deal with in the world that kids don't have to deal with, right? And so like over time, we are taught no, you don't use this for creativity. You use it to deal with problems. And that's kind of how it works. And so for me, this is about getting back to a place where I can look through the lens of playfulness. I can look through the lens of creativity. And when I do that, I can see opportunities to do things in the outer world that I couldn't see before. When I make things, okay. So here's the thing. When we're trying to build up our bodies, right? When we're trying to build muscle in our bodies, the way we build muscle in our bodies is to put a lot of pressure on our muscles, right? Like we lift heavy weights and that tears apart the muscle. And then when the muscle comes back, it's stronger, right? This is how we grow muscles. Unfortunately, the opposite is true for our minds. So the more pressure we put on our minds, the smaller they get. Actually, they don't grow, they atrophy, they get smaller, they get more stressed out, they get less creative. And so the goal of playfulness for me, and I don't even really, honestly, I don't use the word playfulness when I'm coaching people because I just don't, that word doesn't come out for me. It is playfulness, but that's not a word that I use just because it doesn't always resonate with people. The goal that I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get people to have a less serious relationship with whatever it is they're working on. I'm trying to get them to feel like whatever they're doing is less significant than what they think it is. And we were actually just talking about this on a call yesterday. That Sinya was actually on the call. We had a group call yesterday in one of my programs, and there was a woman that I was coaching around her wanting to put herself out more online and having stress around this and feeling worried that she was going to put herself out and how is she going to be received and all these different things. And you can tell that when we have these things we want to create in the world, whether it's a business or it's whatever it is we want to create, and we don't do it, a lot of times it's because there's some identity we want to step into. We're like, you know what? Once I do this thing, then I'm a real coach or I'm a real entrepreneur or like finally people will take me seriously. Like there's this identity that I'm like trying to get into so hard. And so what I want to slow people down into and what I did in this coaching session was I said, instead of putting yourself out there in the world so that you can be a serious coach or a serious entrepreneur or a serious whatever, what if you did that stuff just because it's Tuesday? And that's just what you do on Tuesdays. It doesn't say anything about you as a human. It has nothing to do with your identity. It's not that significant. What if it's just something you do because it's Tuesday and that's just what you do on Tuesdays? And while that may sound overly simplistic, that is the key in my mind to being high performing without having so much stress, is to lower the significance, lower the heaviness, lower the seriousness that we attach to the things we want to create so that our playful creative minds can take over and we can actually get stuff done way more effectively. Does that make sense?
That totally makes sense to me. So what I hear in that is that taking the significance out is because we put so much meaning onto things. Like the moment we create, like nothing has meaning from the beginning. So the moment there is something and then it becomes like, ooh, all this great stuff and this big deal. And, for instance, with the TEDx talks, like you only need to mention the word TEDx talk and everyone is like, woo. And it becomes this big meaning. And, if you haven't heard of it before, it's like kind of, yeah, well, what's the deal? TEDx, what is it? And so same with any other thing. If we find a way, so that's what I hear in you saying, if we can find a way to take the significance out of it, we can be more aligned with who we want to be in that position and how we want to show up facing whatever comes up.
Yeah.
And you're saying playfulness then, or less seriousness, more, you call it sincere as well, don't you? Like a sincere way of approaching things. And that rings so true to me. I mean, when I heard you first say that, that was like a cling light bulb going on. I'm like, yes, I love that. Because so many times we talk about a serious relationship or a serious way of being that and that. But sincere, I mean, I totally bought that. And that makes a big difference just by rewording it. So the power is in the words as well, which I love very much. Yeah.
Language is huge to me. Language is really huge to me in a lot of different ways. And I think you nailed it. I think that's the point of all this. It's just like 5% less seriousness, sincerity, that whole this whole distinction of serious versus sincere is something that I first learned from Alan Watts. I don't know if you're an Alan Watts fan or if you followed him at all. He was this amazing philosopher who since passed away, but he had all these beautiful metaphors and messages, and one of them was this sincere versus serious. And I want to be very sincere about what I do. This is something I always want to be very mindful to mention, is that when I say to live a not so serious life, I don't mean sit on your couch and like eat chips and watch TV all day. It's not about being aimless or wandering around and hoping for the best, any of that stuff. It's very intentional and very purposeful to be sincere. Sincere is amazing. Sincere means I am going to pour my love and my attention and my creativity into the thing that's right in front of me. I'm just not going to make that thing overly significant. So sincerity is everything. I mean, imagine, people signed a letter, seriously yours. That would be weird, right? It would be like, why do you have to be mine? Why am I yours so seriously? But sincerely yours means I am genuine in the way that I'm closing this message to you with love. And so if I am sincere and genuine about the things that I want to create in the world, either with clients or with, family or relationships or jobs or health or whatever it is, if I am sincere and genuine in that quest, I'm still going to move forward. I'm still going to make progress, but I'm just not going to do it with the same level of weight on my shoulders as I'm doing it.
Yeah. So as you're talking about that and the weight on our shoulders, so many people feel that weight. And so let's look at how do you got to that place of knowing all of this? Because you just mentioned weight, and was there a time when you felt all this weight on your shoulders, or how did you come to that point? I mean, I know that most people either have a breakdown or an instant aha moment, and like a moment which happens, and then they go bling, I got the enlightenment here. So which path was yours? Did you go through pain or through enlightenment?
Yeah, no, it was pain. It was lots and lots of pain. So for me, my first, the first battle that I knew with weight was actually physical weight. I didn't know that it was, I didn't know about, I didn't realize that it was these other forms of weight that I was carrying around that were really holding me down. For me, I was at one point 332 pounds. I think it's about 155 kilos. And this was back in 2009. And I've since lost 130 pounds. But I mean, I had a lot of weight that I was carrying just on my body. And what I didn't really fully understand until I lost the physical weight or started losing the physical weight was that while that was helpful in me not being as stressed out, it did not by any stretch of the imagination remove all of the depression, the anxiety. I still had suicidal thoughts even after I lost the weight. And so I knew that it wasn't just the physical weight that was doing this. It was definitely the mental weight, the emotional weight, the financial weight, all these different types of weight. And I've come to see that every single person I've ever met in the world, with maybe a couple of exceptions, maybe because I just can tell because they were hiding it, is overweight in some way, shape, or form. Everybody's holding on to weight in some way, shape, or form. And so for me, it was recognizing what weight I was carrying around. And this is not something where it's like, I did it, I had the realization and I had the pain and now I don't experience any weight anymore. That to me, that's like, that doesn't happen unless you're a sociopath or you're really heavily medicated. Or some people who just like move to Bali and they just meditate all day. But for the rest of us, you're going to have days where you feel weight. You're going to have days where you feel stress. You're going to have days where you feel sadness or despair or uncertainty or fear or whatever those things are. The goal is, can I learn to navigate those things as effectively as possible? It's not about immunity, it's about navigation. So I first kind of started diving into personal growth around 2009, which was around the time that I really had this kind of wake up call about my physical weight. And that's all in Prison Break. That's actually the first chapter of Prison Break is kind of all about that kind of, the name of the chapter is The Day the Universe Cut Me Off. I had a very particular thing that happened that just kind of cut me off and made me completely stop everything and realize that I had to change something in my life because I was not taking personal responsibility for my life at all. I was just blaming everybody else around me. I was blaming my partner or the way my mom raised me, or the fact that my dad was never there, or that my clients were being a pain in the ass, or that my boss was being too demanding, or that my employees weren't following directions. I had every reason in the world to blame everybody else, but it was never me. It was always those idiots. It never had anything to do with me. And then I realized that the common denominator in all those relationships was me. And so finally getting the sense of like personal responsibility was the thing I was missing. That's really what started me down this journey of understanding the way the system works, the way the equipment works, because the way I was raised, and by no fault of my mom at all, she's incredible, but she was raised by a family that had no idea about this either. So if you were raised speaking French, you're not dumb for not knowing how to speak Spanish. It just wasn't a part of what you were raised with. And so I was kind of raised in this idea of, event causes feeling. There's a direct correlation. Event causes feeling. And it wasn't until my late 20s, very late 20s, to where I finally started seeing what now is pretty common knowledge, probably to everybody on this live stream, is that there's another component in the middle there, and it's thought, right? So there's an event and there is a feeling, but in between the event and the feeling, there's a thought. And our thought is what actually creates our experience of that event. And so that was where I started first looking at, well, like, the basic stuff. How do I like reframe, or how do I reimagine this stuff? And that's great. That can all be very helpful. But the deeper level of that is really understanding how to challenge those thoughts, not necessarily reframe them, at least not right away, but to challenge the thoughts to see if they're even true. Because if they're not true, or if I can find that they're not true, then there's no work to be done on them. Right? Yeah. Like if a little kid walks up to me right now and says, "You have blue hair," I don't need to reframe that because there's no truth in it. I can look at the mirror and say, "I don't have blue hair," and so I don't need to do any work around that. So that's kind of been my path to kind of figure that stuff out.
That's awesome. Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. And it's so much in there where people, or I can resonate with that we all are created by our loving parents who got us to this world, and they're doing their best. And this is my presumption. We're all doing the best we can in every moment in time. If there would be a better choice, we would do it better. There isn't available at that time. So we all carry some form of baggage with us. And the earlier we address that, the better. So I see that there is like a window of opportunity, like a golden time when we are just adults and, turning into these like young adults, and we kind of say goodbye to our parents and still carry all the baggage. And then we're like, okay, we're carrying this with us. And then it's like, okay, it's getting heavy. And the earlier we realize that baggage is there in any person, and actually taking a look at that backpack and saying, oh, what's in there? Let's get curious of what is it I'm carrying here from my parents, from my teachers, and I had a teacher like that who told me that I'm stupid in maths. And I carry that with me. Yeah, for a long time. Or I carried with me that I'm a slow reader and all these things. And if we don't address them, we keep carrying them with us for the rest of our lives. And they become heavy. And for some, even like a physical weightness. And obviously there is also all the trauma and whatever people have gone through. So there is this window, a golden time before we get too old, before it actually is like drooping our shoulders, where the earlier the better we take a look at that. So I wonder if, calls like this can be an inspiration for people. What do you think is like a really good trigger for people to get them into, you said you maybe not coach with the word playfulness. So let's say playfulness, sincerity, how can they trigger themselves into being playful or sincere about a situation which might feel difficult? How can they help themselves? Because they might actually see it, but not knowing, what do I do now? How can I be that light person and always smile and, sing a song and be that who they want to be, but it's so difficult. Have you got any tips there?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, I think the number one key for this, and this is just, at least for me and for the majority of the people, probably everybody I've worked with could say the same thing, is step number one is to slow down, like to slow everything down. Because if you think about this, if the goal here is to, what happened?
You can slow down.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So this is the thing that people don't get about me. Have you ever heard this analogy of a duck in water, where on top of the water it looks very calm, but underneath the water it's doing this with its feet? Yeah, I'm upside down duck, right? Okay. So out here in public, you see me like this, but inside I am super chill. right? Like my mind, I'm like super, super chill right now. Yeah, it's not always like that. Yeah, it's not always zen out. But there's a misconception that when I say slow down, it means you do less in the outside world. No, screw that. I work a ton. I do a ton of stuff. I'm constantly in the middle of something. It's not about what you do in the outer world. It's about in here. So when people say like they're swamped or they're super busy or they're overwhelmed, it's really important to slow down and say, I'm actually not overwhelmed out here. I'm overwhelmed up here, right? It's not my life that's overwhelmed. It's my thinking about life that's overwhelmed, okay? And Jock says, yeah, I've tried to slow down. I just can't. That's because you haven't tried to slow down, right? You're trying to intellectualize slowing down, right? You could definitely slow down because you know what? If I hit you with a car tomorrow, Jock, you'd slow down. You'd be forced to. You'd be in a hospital bed and you would be forced to. So it's very possible. We have to have the willingness to slow down. What stops people from slowing down most of the time is that they have been taught that if they slow down, they die. If they slow down, they're going to fall behind the competition. If they slow down, it means they don't care as much about the work they're doing. And that is complete bullshit. It's just not true. And so we have to understand, if we want a certain outcome, we have to create a certain system. If the system you are using now is not helping you get that outcome, then you got to try a different system, right? One of my favorite quotes is, every system is perfect for the result that you're getting. If you want a different result, try a different system. So when you think about slowing down, you don't slow down because I say so. You slow down because you want to actually have more opportunity. So think about this. Let's say we're in a mall and there's like, we're walking through the mall and there's a bunch of stores and they have, the windows and stuff, window displays. And let's say there's a store that has a window display with a bunch of mannequins that are wearing different outfits, right? Just different clothing across the window. If I run past that window as fast as I can, right? And then you're waiting on the other side of that. And you say to me, okay, Jason, tell me about the outfits you saw when you went past that window. I'd be like, I don't know. I ran past the damn door. What do you mean? What outfits were there? I'm sure there were outfits, but I didn't pay attention to that. It's because I was going too fast. If I were to walk past the window, I would say, there's a green skirt, there's a blue polo, there's a black pair of pants, there's a blue pair of jeans. I can see all the opportunities if I just slow the F down. But most of the time, we're so attached to a future, some future thing that we think is going to make us happy, or some future thing that we're trying to rush towards, that we don't slow down enough to realize that slowing down sometimes helps us get to that thing faster, right? Mm-hmm. So step one is absolutely to slow everything down. When we're sped up in our mind, all of our creativity goes out the window. Seriousness, you could replace the word seriousness with sped up thinking, and it would be 100% true.
Oh, this is so good, because so you're saying one of the triggers is to actually slow down, to slow the tempo down, to allow focus to be different, to then actually be able to see the significance in things differently. Yep. Because then we actually are not getting overwhelmed by the stuff which someone else might have said is important, but actually we can slow down and find that inside of us to see what's important now for me in this time. So that's great. I love that. Is there any other things you used as triggers? So I'm hearing like you're doing a lot of things, like you're busy. You seem to be on the spot with messaging people. You are busy with all sorts of projects and many Facebook groups because you're really engaged. So overwhelm could be a side effect of overworking.
Yep.
So one is to slow down. Is there another thing you could say as a tip of how, sincerity comes into your life when you slow down and take a good look? So is it then, what else is there? Not putting words into your mouth.
Yeah. Well, one thing you want to do to be successful is you want to make sure you don't have any crap on your black shirt when you're in an interview. That's step number. So step one is slow down. Step two is grab the little things. But this is actually beautiful, right? Because the second tip I'll give you is presence, right? It goes along with slowing down, but it's presence. And if I'm only focused on doing the thing right in front of me, it's much, much easier to not get overwhelmed. At the end of the day, the stuff that's meant to get done is going to get done. And so for me, one of the things that I think has been really interesting, again, going back to language, is that somehow at some point, I don't know how this translates into other languages, but at some point in English, we started pluralizing the word priority. Somehow priority became a plural. And by definition, priority means the most important thing. you can't have multiple the most important things, right? You can't live in plurality. You can't live in plurals. And so when people are saying like, how do I get clients? We're in plural. When I say, how do I get all of this done? We're in plural. When I say, how do I respond to all these messages? We're in plural. Plurals can't exist. It's not just the myth of multitasking, but it's the fact that we're taking energy, we're expending energy, we're creating an open loop in our brain that says, I need to do all these things, which then takes us out of really being present with the one thing in front of us. And I remember there was a guy I met one time. I was at like a dinner party, and somebody there, they knew I was a coach, and they're like, you got to meet this guy. He's amazing. He's awesome. Not about me, about this other guy. They were like, you got to go meet this guy. I'm like, cool. So I go meet the dude, and we're talking, super cool guy. And he tells me he just finished skateboarding all the way from North Carolina to Florida, which is like 600 miles. I don't know what that is in kilometers, but 600 miles. That's far. That's like in a car that would take you 10 hours, right? And he did this on a skateboard. And so I asked him, I said, dude, that's insane. Like I can't even imagine doing that. And I said, so what was your big takeaway? Like, what was your big aha moment? What was your big epiphany from doing that? And he looked at me and he's like, I didn't really have one. I'm like, really? You didn't have any like big breakthrough, any big insight? He goes, no, I was just focused on the 10 feet of road that was right in front of me.
Wow.
And I was like, that's actually a pretty big epiphany, dude, because that's exactly what we don't do. We're on the skateboard and we focus on 7 miles ahead of us instead of the 10 feet that are right in front of us. He has no business worrying about 7 miles down the road. I have no business worrying about tomorrow. Tomorrow is none of my effing business. Doesn't mean you don't make plans, but for me to think that I am responsible for making tomorrow happen a certain way, all that does is bring stress into my today. So I want to be super hyper vigilant on being present with the thing in front of me. Coaching is the thing that's probably the easiest for me to do that with because I'm with another human. But even when I'm working on stuff just by myself, I have to make sure that I'm not multitasking. I'm not looking at different devices. I'm not doing different things. I want to be, again, going back to sincere. I want to be sincere, devoted, and focused on the one thing that's in front of me right now.
Mm. Great stuff. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
I've done a question regarding different cultures. So you have worked with many people. You have been around the world with your talking, with your coaching and everything. So would you say like this kind of attitude of being playful, sincere, seeing things with that lighter approach instead of the heaviness, does that come to some cultures more easy than to others? I can see like I'm German, okay, so and I can still smile. I might not have the greatest humor, but okay, let's other people judge that. So like I can see that people from the Netherlands, Dutch people, like in general, it's a big thumb rule now, but when I meet people from the Netherlands, they do seem to have that intrinsically, this playfulness and this lightness about things. And when I see that in those people, I just love it. It's great. It's so easy talking to them. And I don't know why that is. And when I look at the people I'm having in my mind, they seem to have this, they're just good with stuff. They're more grateful for life in general. So have you seen some kind of trends, or is that more difficult for cultures and others are finding it easier? Can you say something about that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there are stereotypes of different cultures having different relationships to fun and seriousness and playfulness and all that stuff. People are people. Anywhere you go, you're going to find people who are overly serious, and you're going to find people who are super playful. You're going to find people who are grateful for everything, and you're going to find people where nothing is ever enough. I don't think it's really. I would not want to label it as a cultural thing. But I could see it happening. It's also different for everybody. So, for example, I know what was I doing? I was having a conversation with somebody in New Zealand, and I said something that was a joke, and their response, they didn't laugh, but they said, good one. And that was it. Good one. And I'm like, oh, okay. And they're like, no, you don't understand. In New Zealand, when you say, good one, that's like cracking up laughing. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I know that. So everybody has it. The way it's expressed is different. But I don't yet. The outward expression is not as important to me as the inner feeling. And so if somebody feels lighter, but they don't necessarily have crazy energy or wave their hands all around like a weirdo like me, that's totally cool. Like whatever works for them, as long as they feel it inside, that's great.
Okay, great. So before we round up this interview today, I'm so pleased by everyone watching. Thank you guys. It's fabulous to have you here. And
Thanks,
I like this function of putting things into our screen. I like that a lot.
Yeah, that's cool.
So thanks for sticking with us. If you have any more questions, just put it into the chat box. So, you know, when I think about these beliefs, I always see that as, why is this happening? Why do we get taught to be serious when to become successful? Have you got anything there? Because I mean, I carried that as well. I have that feeling that, well, like a guy in finance or politics, they just can't be really light. They got to be serious. And I wonder how far that goes. Like, you have worked with entrepreneurs and people in different hierarchies. So what do you say to them to break down their seriousness? I mean, you just rock up and go, okay, here we go. Let's have a fun conversation. And, you know, if you need to furlong people, just be joyful about it, because this is what it is.
Yeah.
So how do you do that? How do you tell a leader in their company, like from your perspective now, how would you tell them to take it from a lighter approach? Because in general, that's better for people.
Yeah. And as much as possible, I don't want to tell them. I want them to tell me. Right. And so I want to inquire, and I'll ask them. And I do this all the time in live talks. And last time I did it was I was doing a talk for a sales conference, a national sales conference for this company. So it was all their internal salespeople. And I wrote on the whiteboard, I drew a line down the center of the whiteboard. And on the left-hand side, I wrote, on the right-hand side, I wrote in flow. And on the left-hand side, I wrote ready to blow, right? So in flow versus ready to blow. And I said, okay, so when you think about, life and work getting really stressful, what kind of feelings come to mind? How do you feel at work when things are just getting really overwhelmed and feeling really serious? And they told me, like, oh, serious, overwhelmed, I get irritable. I'm not creative. I'm tired. I get angry. I get resentful, all these things. And then on the in flow side, I said, what does it feel like when you're in flow? And they said, oh, I feel creative. I feel collaborative. I feel joyful. I feel happy. I have all this energy, all this stuff. And I said, cool. So which one of these do you do your best work in? And they said, well, in flow, 100%. That's no doubt about it. I said, cool. So why don't we just choose that more often? And they think about it. They go, oh, no, I couldn't do that. I said, well, why? Well, if I do that, then people won't take me seriously. They'll think that I don't care about the job, and they'll think about all these things. And the challenge here is I always ask them one question, and this is the only question I need to ask them. Have you tested that? Have you tested that if you didn't do all this work from a place of seriousness and stress and despair and overwhelm, if you chose to come from a more creative, joyful place, have you tested that to see if it means people won't take you seriously? And not one of them had tested it ever. And so that's the thing, is like, test it. Listen, at the end of the day, stress, depression, anxiety, fear, any of these kind of heavy emotions, they will be there waiting for you if you want to go back to them. They're not going to go away. They'll be there waiting, right? So just test, be open to test this other way. And if you test this other way and it does not work at all and you hate it, please feel free to go back to stress and despair and fear and resentment and all those things. It's waiting for you, but just give it a test. And what I've seen, and actually I had a client message me this morning, and he had read something, and it was a Byron Katie thing, and he sent it to me. He said, oh man, I love this. And she's talking about like just being content with what you have and loving what is and not seeking for something else outside of you. But I just feel like if I did that, then wouldn't I just sit here? Like I wouldn't be motivated to do anything anymore. And so I sent him back a voice message. I said, well, it's possible. It's possible that you would just sit there and do nothing. And here's kind of my metaphor for looking at this. When you're really, really hungry, right? And you sit down and you have a meal, and the meal fills you up, right? You're now content. You don't want any more food. You feel, I'm good. I'm full. I got what I needed. In that moment, do you ever worry that because you just had a meal, you'll never be hungry again? Like, do you worry like, oh my God, I had that meal. What if I'm never hungry again? What if I never feel hunger again? Right? You don't do that. You just have the meal. And then at some point, your body tells you, hey, we're hungry again. right? But you don't sit there worrying, and you don't sit there planning and figuring out, well, okay, when should I be hungry again? Should I be hungry in 3 hours? Or should I intermittent fast? Should I be hungry in 12? Oh my God, when am I going to be hungry? What am I going to do? We don't do that because we know that the body will tell us when we need to eat again. The same thing can happen here. Me being content, me looking at my life and everything I have and saying, everything I have is great. There is not one thing, and I mean this right now with us, Julia, there is not one thing you could give me right now that would change my experience of life. If you gave me $20 million right now, nothing about my life would change in this moment. Zero, nothing would change. And so when I start realizing that this could be the best it ever gets, right? What if this moment is the best it ever gets? Then I get to feel content. And if 5 minutes from now I go, you know what, life's amazing, and it would be so cool to do this, then I'll go and do that because I'll feel the desire to do that. But it won't come from a place of lack. It'll come from a place of playfulness and creativity.
Thank you. That was a brilliant metaphor. And I love metaphors anyway, because they just make you go, now I get it. And the work from Byron Katie is just fascinating. And I love her work. And you putting it in different words just helps as well. We are so much in our mind and people believing their thinking, and then they get stuck in their own thinking and loving their thoughts and holding on to them for dear life because that's what they got used to believing and thinking. So yeah, there is so much in there. Thank you for putting it in your words.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I would like to sum this meeting up and this interview with 2 questions I have for you. And before I do that, let's just say, you mentioned playfulness and sincerity and the triggers for everyone listening. Just make sure what JG said, to be really still as well, to calm yourself down, to in any kind of situation, just be still and be calm, to actually see what's going on and to take the significance out of stuff. Because then you can actually play full out and better, and you're lighter, and you come from a place of creativity and productivity and have all these wonderful side effects, which actually help you be in flow, and you get more out and be more productive and reach probably people in a whole different way, because you are so much more aligned to who you want to be. Because most people don't want to be tight. And if they want to be tight, let them be tight. All right.
Yeah.
And this is great. So thank you for sharing that. And I hope many people can take that away for them lives being lighter, and actually teach that to other people or their children or their colleagues or whoever they want to teach it to. And if they haven't gotten enough from you, then they should visit you on your page, which is the Jason Goldberg.
The Jason Goldberg, yeah. Jason Goldberg was taken, like everything Jason Goldberg was taken. So Instagram, Facebook, my website, I had to do the Jason Goldberg, THE, the Jason Goldberg. I wanted to get the most pretentious name possible. So that's the one I landed on.
I love it. And then people can just find anything there and, buy the book Prison Break and find your programs, because they will be all life-changing if you start working with JG. And I can speak from experience. The program I just did with you was extraordinary, and I'm on the way of creating my course for young adults, which I'm super excited about. And
awesome.
So, yeah. And so my last 2 questions for you are, what does happiness mean to you?
Yeah, happiness just means that there's nothing that I'm trying to avoid and nothing that I'm trying to attain. So that middle ground of like, there's nothing in my life I'm trying to get rid of, and there's nothing in my life that I'm trying to get. That kind of contentment, peace, happiness in the middle of that is definitely one definition of happiness. For me, happiness is also serving. So I feel really happy when I'm teaching, when I'm making a difference, when I'm hopefully, as my kind of one-line business plan / one-line life plan to leave everybody I meet with at least 5% more joy than I found them. If I'm doing that on a regular basis, that makes me very, very happy.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. And the last question I have is, what are you excited about right now? What excites you?
What am I excited about? I'm really excited about, honestly, well, I'm moving in a couple weeks. I mean, just like 5 minutes down the road, but I'm excited to get into my new home because it's going to be, there's some cool stuff that I'm going to create once I'm in the home. But I think what I'm really excited about is just continuing to lean into the entertainment side of personal growth. I feel like personal growth just as a whole is very serious for the most part. And I love how much humor and levity can be a conduit to transformation. That when people are not taking things so seriously, it's so much easier to transform. And so I'm really excited about just continuing to lean more and more into the entertainment and the humor that can be brought together with personal growth. So that's I'm working on a couple different shows. One's a TV show and one is a video podcast. And so I'm really excited about both of those projects.
Whoa, I'm getting excited too. That sounds fabulous. All right. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I can't wait to get more laughter into my life with that as well. And so if there are any other questions from people afterwards, I will see how we can get them answered. And for now, just make sure this video will also be posted on YouTube. So make sure you like and love my YouTube channel. And I'm so grateful.
I'm grateful too. It was amazing to play with you, Julia. Thank you for everybody who was here live and everybody who watches the replay. It was awesome to spend time with you and keep doing the amazing work you're doing in the world. Can't wait for your course to come out. It's going to rock.
All right. Thank you so much for your inspiration and motivation and your high energy and all your insights. Thank you so much. And bye, everyone who was watching. Thanks for being with us.
Peace.
Peace.